prayer list tonight, Betty Crisp, that's the sister of Ed and Dorothy, of course. Viola Upshaw, Tony, still, he's in recovery. Lena Hart, any others tonight?
Mitchell Sample family.
Mitchell Sample. Any others?
I spoke to Sister Blakely today.
Ms. Blakely.
Keep her in prayer, please.
Ms. Blakely, yes, we will keep you in prayer. I don't have my glasses tonight, so don't fool me, roll with the same. So don't fool me tonight. Whoever's talking, I'm going to do the very best I can. Mitchell Sample, Blakely, Viola, Dorothy, Lena, Dorothy, Chris, Lena. Any others? All right, let's pray. God, we thank you for our night gathering together again. We ask you to bless us as we come, as we go to open your word and learn. All of us will be fed in thee. For it is in Jesus' name that we pray. And God's people say, amen. Amen. Isaiah, can you go get chapter 46? Oh, man. A couple of things I want to deal with tonight. I want to ask a question before we go into chapter 46. We probably won't do a lot with 47 tonight, but I want to ask you a question. Are you prejudiced?
Yes, most of us are. Well, all of us are.
This was an honest class. I think I would.
Yes.
Depends.
Are you prejudiced?
Yes.
You have prejudice. What does it mean to be? Before we deal with this chapter, the reason why I'm dealing with this is because there's a specific aspect in the chapter I want to deal with. So I ask the question again, are you prejudiced?
Yes.
This was an honest class. I think I ever had in my life. Most of the time, I have to prove that we all have prejudices. So that's a good one. Okay, so we all have prejudices. Okay, I think we understand. What is prejudice? What does it mean to be prejudiced?
Basing a said value of a person, be it a looks, ethnicity, appearance, attitude, mentality. It could be a lot of things. Prejudice doesn't only have to be color. It could be a lot of things. A person's economic standing, a person, the way they dress, their appearance, their attitude or mentality. You can be prejudiced toward that simply because you don't like it.
I like that definition.
Prejudiced toward that because you simply don't like it.
That's the dictionary definition. That's good. So what are some of the prejudices? You named one, race. She defined prejudice, but what are some of the prejudices we have? Nationality. Are black people prejudiced against other
Yes,
ethnicities?
yes.
We're prejudiced against ourselves, each other.
So let's get back to this. All of that live in Gary. How many stores over there in Gary are ran by Arabs?
All of them.
I was gonna say every single one.
All of the gas stations. How do we generally feel about our gas stations? Let's just be real about it.
I don't like them. It's drugs.
Drugs.
It is.
And what else? I don't like them. I don't like the way they treat us, right?
True. That's not true. Not all of them.
I like
Some of them, they treat you well, yeah.
why did you come in on the second part when you say, not all of them. But when we're angry, we don't say that. What we say,
All of them.
You
we
generalize
have a
all
name
of
for
them.
Arabs.
But you know what? The reason why I don't like it is because of us, though.
Because of us?
Us, yeah. We go, the people that go to the gas station, they don't do right while they're at the gas station. So they make you unsafe. They make you feel unsafe. So they make you not want to go there.
Okay, that's one perspective. Somebody else has something? I don't want to miss anybody in this. I'm using the Arab things we talked about earlier. problem.
I think with the Arabs, and only because I've worked for them, I think our people feel some type of way when they come into our community and they're getting our resources and sources in our neighborhoods, and we feel like, how dare they come in here and they're making money on the back of us? We are the one who have gotten so comfortable, even when we don't have to shop with them, we will anyway. Even when they treat us like garbage, we still shop with them. Sometimes we can have a vehicle and we can go somewhere further and shop with somebody who give you better customer service, but we got so comfortable, but we are part of the problem. We are part of the problem without wanting to be part of the solution.
I agree with you on that. I agree with you on that. So we have prejudice in our community. I mean, we are guilty of prejudice like other people. Is that all right?
Yes.
Well, we talked about pointing out something really good about dress. Reverend Jesse Jackson once said, he was in Chicago, or even my Chicago. This is Jesse Jackson. Okay. He saw a young man, big black young man, hair all over the place, and pants were down, and the dude was walking toward him. And the first thing Jesse did is got in defensive mode. Well, the boy passed him and wasn't even thinking about it. And I was glad that Reverend Jackson could come and admit, my whole reason for getting in the defensive mode is the way that I've been taught to think. The guy didn't do anything to him. He was just passing him, and he looked, quote unquote, suspect. Okay? That's based on his understanding. What is the difference between truth and understanding? Truth and understanding.
To me, the truth is the facts.
I like that.
Understanding is just a little knowledge.
Or the way you perceive
Right.
the stuff around you to be true. Understanding can change. Understanding can be wrong. But truth never changes and is always right. Are we all following me tonight? All right, we're going to put these things into effect. So Reverend Jackson sees this young man coming toward him. His understanding is, I have to protect myself. It wasn't the fact. The fact is, the guy was just dressed different. And our first response is defense. First response, he didn't have to defend, but his understanding led him to do what? Protect himself when he didn't have to. Why?
Because our perception, I have a best
Go ahead.
friend.
Perception.
He almost 6'9". He's a southern dude, and he is very intimidating. Just without him ever opening his mouth, his whole appearance is intimidating, not only to anybody, because he's such a big guy, and he wears this mask every day, all the time. He looks all the time like I wish somebody would say something to me. And because of that, he has a whole bunch of issues and a whole bunch of problems with people without any saying nothing. Simply, people perceive him simply because of the way he is and the way they see him. He looks intimidating, very intimidating.
And see, and he's probably not an evil person.
And he really
looks
is
that
not. He
way.
a big old teddy bear.
And he's a perfect example of what Reverend Jackson was talking about. You see somebody, even of your own skin color, and they look different to you. The first thing you get ready to do is to fight, right? And it's because of our preconditioned understanding of people. Your friend is 6'9", he's big, and he happens to be black. And unfortunately, we have been taught to dislike ourselves, that we are bad. Am I right? Have you been taught that? May not directly, but that the people that look like you are bad. Have you been taught that? Even if somebody didn't say that, people that look like you, you've been taught that through experience and life.
That's what
The media has a great effect on you, just as it does that's me. Who are the people always getting in handcuffs?
Us.
And it's constant, you're always in handcuffs. So you don't like, in many cases, many of us don't like to be around our own people. Have you ever heard people, I mean, when we're in our own private meetings, you hear, I want to be around any black people today? Come on, I'm so sick of black people. Come on, you've heard people that look like you say that. But what it is, it's an understanding which needs to be changed. Your friend is the perfect example. He's 6'9". He didn't ask to be 6'9". He didn't ask to be big. He didn't ask to be black. God made him that. And it's our understanding that has to change. When I deal with this text today, you'll understand why I'm dealing with this first. Let's go to something else. How many people work with someone of different nationalities or worked past them? I mean, different nationalities. I ain't talking about white. I ain't talking about just you work with other white people. I'm talking about somebody of foreign nationality. If you work with someone foreign. Anybody ever heard, I'm using this as an example, I used this earlier. Around here you don't have any Somalians. But anybody ever heard of the Somali people? They have a whole bunch of them in Minnesota. That's where they're based. Somalis are different. They come from Somalia. The Somalis, like many foreigners, give off different smells. You have a smell, I have a smell, all of us do. But we're Westerners, and it does not offend, right? There's no offense to the smell. Well, people from other cultures give off different smells. How do you feel about that? You don't like it. Now, just being real honest. And what it does is it causes you to do what?
That's the same way I feel about
Right?
European people.
Now, when I say difference, I think you understand what I'm talking about. They have different food, they eat different food, right? Anybody ever had Indian food in here?
Yes,
God bless you, because
it's so good.
I told the story before. I had been invited to do mission in India years
It's
ago,
okay. You ready?
and somebody cooked the stuff in my office that I was working in, and I smelled it, and I started. I felt like I was. Now, I'm not saying the food is nasty. I'm saying my reaction to it was mere. I couldn't. I hated the smell. It really messed me up, and. There's no way you can do mission in India if you can't eat the food. And this is just a basic dish. So the Lord was telling me, you better stay back. But my point is, when something repulses us, what do we do? I get on my father about this. In Minneapolis, I told you there's a lot of Somalians in there because that's where they were based when they left Somalia. Dad is about Richard's age, African-American male. Sorry, Richard, I'm using you as an example. He's the same age as Richard. They've got the same mentality. Cub Foods is our food for less, okay? But there's a big chain on them. CUB Foods, Cub Foods is our food for less. There's one in Chicago, actually. But there's a big chain in Minnesota. Dad, he says, that Dad came out of the 70s. Loved Richard Hatcher, Afro, James Brown, pro-black, everything. That's my father. But Dad will tell you, I don't like that all of the Somalis are here. I said, Dad, you can't say something, different generation. You can't say that. He says, I said, well, what's wrong with them? Well, they're loud. I don't like the way they smell. And they're always in my way at the grocery store. He said, oh, keep that in mind. Now, Dad would never be the type of person. Dad would never be the type of person to say, I hate any people or hate or treat them bad. But that's how he feels. Those are his thinking, because what used to be just black, white, maybe some Hispanics here and there, it's changed. And so the workers are Somali, and sometimes when they don't speak English, he's not the most patient. Again, he's Richard's age. He's not the most patient. And not being the most patient with them, he'll tell you in a minute. I don't like this. Then the Lord has blessed him with some Somali neighbors. And so Dad's lived in that house for 30-something years. He takes care of his lawn. He takes care of the yard. These particular individuals don't do that. How do you feel if somebody moves in next door to you and they don't take care of their yard?
Upset, very upset. We got some. We got some.
How does that make you feel? They don't take care of their yard, or you're living in a duplex apartment.
I feel disrespected.
If you, anybody lived in an apartment here before, if you lived in an apartment at any time in your life, raise your hand. Okay, you lived in an apartment. Somebody comes in under you with a whole bunch of kids. And they're really uncontrolled kids, and they're constantly moving, constantly. Don't we, and if that person happens to be of Hispanic origin, or that person happens to be of Asian origin, isn't it easy for us to say, I don't want to live next to any more Asian people because of Asian people, even though that's not fair? Isn't it very easy for us to say, Asian people do such and such, or Hispanic people do such and such? Isn't it easy for us to type that? People? Very simple. In this woke culture we live in, we must be also careful. People are getting sued, people are getting fired for making simple statements about things we always make. I don't want to go there. There's too many white folks. There's too many black people. There's too many. You get fired from a job. You say something similar like that, and we say it in home, you get terminated. Well, I want to deal with this 46th chapter of Genesis. We're going to read most of the chapter, then we're going to get to what I really want to get to tonight. I took some notes for you, but I really want to deal with this because in the Bible, we deal with prejudice. Okay? And we're going to see how prejudice gets worked out in the biblical origin. I talked to you about the smell of foreigners. And believe it or not, as Westerners, I hate to quote Richard Pryor. Please, this will be the only time I ever quote Richard Pryor. But Richard Pryor, in one of his jokes, it was very good actually. People miss it, but what he said was he was in Africa. And when he went to Africa, you know, the guy gave off a smell. But what was funny, the funny part is, it was a cab driver, he gave off a smell. Richard Pryor's in the back, and he's doing everything he can to get out of the guy's smell. Some of you might remember it. But the punchline is, the African driver didn't like his smell either.
Right.
Okay, you understand what I'm saying? So, because, see, you guys have perfume, cologne, and all of this stuff that I'm used to smelling and you're used to smelling. Well, a foreigner may not be used to smelling that. We've got different deodorants that give off different scent. And it seems like some cultures don't really use the same. You know, some cultures don't. They're opposed to it. And so we're here, and the first thing black people say, somebody musty.
Yes.
Shauna.
You know that word? You all, musty. That's the word we use. And we have to be also careful. The first thing we'll say, somebody musty. And as Mr. Frith pointed out so eloquently, that offends black people when somebody says, yes. Do you know that?
It turns my stomach.
Because all of us will say, that ain't me.
Yeah, the first thing, Andy, I ain't musty. That's almost, those are fighting words. I ain't musty.
For real.
M-U-S-T-Y. I don't know where we get that word from. But everybody, all of us know what it means. Somebody musty. You know, and if you're the wrong person, you really go off because it offends us so much when someone stinks. You see what I'm saying? People, black people, especially like a black woman, stereotypical black woman, if somebody's thinking she's going to comment on it, she's going to talk, that's just shame. I mean, she's almost preach a sermon because someone smells. And I wonder what our understanding has done to people. You got some cultures that don't use deodorant during certain holy months of their religious calendar. You know.
And some of them don't use it at all.
Let me say this when Kilpatrick speak, and then we're going to read 46. Have you worked with Muslims? Anybody work with any Muslims? Some of them, at least the Somalis, would wash their feet in the sink. You know what I just said? In this day of culture and Sabbath, some of the women in here, some of you that I know well, yeah, they couldn't get down with that because, yeah, some of them couldn't get down with that. You know, well, he just washes his Did he just want his feet to sink? I can hear that. I'd have to come on some of their jobs.
And the
But that's part
bathroom
of
And the bathroom?
their ritual. And their ritual. And we are in this COVID culture, and we're scared of everything right now, and you got somebody on the job washing their feet in the sink. Oh, come on! I can see poor Sylvia. Now, and unfortunately, I have to defend you all because you don't necessarily meet what woke is. You know, everybody's talking about wokeness. A woke culture would say, well, I'm not going to wash my feet in the sink, but I understand why he does it or why she does it.
Exactly.
You understand? And woke culture would say, we have to make room for that. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm simply telling you what the fight is in society. The fight in society, well, she's Muslim, so she has to go to the bathroom a few times a day during a certain time of the year, and she has to wash her feet in the sink.
Really? I'm just
I wish Bernice were here.
in the bathroom. You mean?
Yes, you go to the bathroom.
Oh, you go to the bathroom, not in the
Okay, she
kitchen.
goes to the bathroom and she washes her feet in
Not in the kitchen.
Okay, not in the kitchen. Okay, see, I'm saying in the bathroom. Are you guys okay with the bathroom?
That's the bathroom. That's where
Okay,
you
you guys
wash
are
up.
okay with her going to the sink and washing? Nelly's not saying anything. You guys okay with her washing her feet? Reverend Kilpatrick.
Two things. One, when my children went to camp years ago, they were small Wanda, that's the first thing they confiscated from them, all their deodorants. Because they say out in the wilderness, you can't wear it because it draws the bees.
Okay.
Because it's scented.
So, they, of course, the kids complained, but they had to bathe, but they couldn't wear the deodorant or perfume or anything.
That's the
Because of the animals.
Now, you know,
I mean, the insects.
you said this was a Boys and Girls Club?
Yeah, they're at the camp, and they sent them out somewhere in Indiana.
Yeah. Now, see, the thing about that, some of my members, I'm glad that one was successful, but I had to go out there and counsel some of my people. That you got to abide by, and as a mother, I don't know what you told her. Yeah, I can't wear no deodorant, Mom? You told us two things, bro. Brush your teeth and put some deodorant. Somebody say amen.
they'd have been upset with me. I'd have been like, hide this underneath your pillow.
Hide it under your pillow, huh? So what do you do then? You got somebody coming to church. Go ahead.
The second thing, I remember in Chicago, in addition, to you all, the generation, musicians and all that, but people took baths in wash tubs.
Yeah.
They boiled the water on the stove.
My mother.
And then they put it, you took a bath in that, and then they had a foot basin.
Now see, you're telling the truth. You're telling the truth. See, my wife wouldn't have lived then. But I'm saying she wouldn't have lived. She wouldn't have been able to live, but they would do it. I know, I'm just saying, that's the truth. But do you see how, okay, we all know about the bathwater. Everybody knows what she's talking about. But do you see how we're quick to judge other cultures and our forefathers, I hate to say, but our grandparents, they would boil the water, and if I understand it correctly, help me, Kilpatrick, wouldn't some of the kids take the bath in the same water? Is that correct?
To save on water, yes.
Yeah, the children, so if you have 2 or 3 kids, and we have the audacity, it don't mean if it's, what are you saying? You're saying it's warm, you still got germs?
The chemistry was different back then. They didn't have the diseases that they have
See,
now.
they made the adjustments. But see, Richard, if I'm from another culture and you judge me because I'm not, y'all taking the bath in the same, you put the little children in the thing.
They did that because they didn't have the accommodations for that.
Another thing to remember, Reverend, a lot of us didn't have running water.
Right.
That's it.
They didn't have the accommodations for that.
Okay, can I ask you, see, Richard came up and he's speaking to that. Richard is speaking out of
Yeah.
Reverend Kilpatrick in their background, which isn't the worst. My parents did the same thing. Now, I didn't come up like that. No, but my point is, let me say this, Alabama. What do you think of that today? Well, what did you just say? Come on, D. What did you just say?
You couldn't do it because I done got too much knowledge.
You don't got too much knowledge, and it changed your what?
My ways.
Your understanding.
My understanding of it.
Go ahead.
Well, technology or modernization have made it so that people can have bathtubs and hot water, cold water in their homes and sinks and that sort of thing. But that was the American way.
Yes, it was.
Right after World War II, which I was just born, but that's when people began to modernize their homes, you know, the average working person, and could have all of these, you know, conveniences.
But when you didn't have them, you had to do what you did.
Right.
I'm so glad you brought that example up because it escaped me in the morning, but I bring that up. But there's someone, like I'm looking back, well, they'll point out, hey, they didn't have it, but I'm looking with my 21st century context, and I'm judging what they're doing in Dadeville, Alabama. I'm judging what they did. You see the lack of understanding and the lack of respect that I have for what had to be. You understand it from both sides because you lived in both time periods. Right? But I'm judging it from a guy who didn't come in the world until 1978. It's context.
And even, Pastor, for our generation. My people are from Tamar, Arkansas. I was born and raised in the city of Chicago. However, every summer that wagon got packed up. And there are so many things about the South that was really hard to adjust to, like going to the outhouse as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what was I going to
Oh.
do? I didn't have no choice about that because we were usually down there a whole month. And they had the big steel bins and me, and it was at least 16 to 18 of us down there kids. And we would have to boil our water and when you finished taking your bath, it was your job. And we talking about all 18 of us is city kids. We would have to empty that bin, clean it out, bin, clean it out, go boil some water for the next person, fill it up so they could take a bath. And as city kids, we wasn't used, but we had to get used to it because that was the only way.
Let me tell you, Reverend Jerry Chris, I'm going to ask you the anniversary in March. When I was in Whiteville, Tennessee, I think most of you were with me. We went to Whiteville a few years back, Reverend Kilpatrick, about 17. I got a chance to see my first outhouse. It was good education. Now, I listen, you say city person. See, me and her connected. I'm looking at the outhouse. I said, my goodness, because I mean, you got people, when we have one addition there that will not use the porta potty, okay? Just, they nasty, they whatever. So I imagine in my northern mind, the best way I can put things together is the outhouse and the porta potty have pretty much the same, that's pretty much the same thing. Sort of, okay. And these are people, I'm saying to myself, I wonder what I would have done if I had grown up in Dadeville, Alabama, and all of those. But God knew when to put me, place me, etc., and everything else. Go ahead, Mr. Chris.
I was born and raised in Whitewood, Tennessee.
Amen.
We didn't have running water. We had an outhouse.
Right?
Every time we didn't have the outhouse.
But then you would be
Call on the Lord.
You would be surprised what you would do when you got no choice.
Yeah.
And it's just like when you're saying about the odor.
Mm-hmm.
See, okay, I got drafted when I went to Vietnam. Got off the plane, I thought I was gonna die because the smell
Yes.
was bad. But once you was there for a while,
You got used to the smell.
yeah, because times we didn't take baths for a week or 2 weeks or something.
Lord have mercy.
But
Bless
everybody
his name.
smelled the same, so we got used to it.
You got everybody smelled the same. Was it just you?
I could never be
You
in there.
just said something. It's amazing what you can get used to.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened.
I've heard that expression, ain't no way I can do that. I could do that.
they had in many cases some very unkept restaurants and places to eat in.
I didn't get to go, but maybe because I was out in the jungle. So, you know, for us going to the city, I maybe got there for a couple of times. But most times I spent out in the
You were working.
jungle.
Go ahead, Dean.
This don't sound ugly. But everybody who had an art house with good fishes.
I understand.
I'll let you figure.
I understand. I'm too young for all that. I'm too young for all that.
What's good, what?
I'm too young for all that.
Go fish.
He's telling you how we survive, but I'm trying to get you to understand that a lot of our disagreement with other people from different ethnicities has more to do with our understanding of what's right and wrong. Just like we're going to see happens to Israel here. Chapter 46, verse 1. So Israel here is Jacob. I want you to notice how the author plays on the name Israel and Jacob, talking about the same person. The nation would be called Israel after Jacob. But the author plays on this name over and over again in the text. So Israel did this. And God said to Jacob, blah, 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 blah. So Israel set out with all that he had and came to Beersheba and offered sacrifices to the God of his father Isaac. God spoke to Israel in visions of the night and said, Jacob, Jacob, same person. And he said, here I am. He said, I am the God of your father. Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for I will make you a great nation there. Why should they go to Egypt? Why do they have to go to Egypt?
Because of the famine.
Right, Reverend. Because of the famine. And Bill Joseph has been revealed. He's coming to get his family. And God confirms, go, Jacob, to Egypt because of the famine. I will go down with you to Egypt, and I will also bring you up again, and Joseph will close your eyes. In other words, Joseph is the one that's going to bury you. I'm going to bring you to Egypt, and Joseph will be the one to bury you. Verse 5, Jacob arises from Beersheba, and the sons of Israel carried their father Jacob and their little ones. Now watch this. And Richard, you asked this last week, and their wives and the wagons, which you asked where Pharaoh was, which Pharaoh had sent to carry him. Now I want you to understand what's important. They're brought in as guests. They leave as slaves. They're brought in as guests. They leave as slaves. All right? In all, there's about 70 of them. All right? 70 of Israel, or Jacob's family. But when they leave, there'll be 2 million. Remember, the Lord tells them, I'll make you a great nation. And this is the fulfillment of that. Once they get into Egypt, they're going to populate like crazy. But something's going to happen here quite interesting. Now, Joseph is vice Pharaoh. You'd think he'd be able to put his people anywhere he wanted to put them, right? But even Joseph, as vice Pharaoh, realizes, I got your back, but I got some limitations here because of some prejudices and some pre-understanding about Israel. Now Joseph in the land of Egypt, of course, was born Manasseh and Ephraim, whom Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, a priest of On, bore to him. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me move down. Verse 28, I'm sorry. I don't have my glasses, forgive me. Now he sent Judah before him to Joseph to point the way before him to Goshen. This is verse 28. Now he sent Judah before him to Joseph to point out the way before him to Goshen. And they came into the land of Goshen. Goshen is a place in Egypt. All right? Joseph prepared his chariot, went up to Goshen to meet his father Israel. Now keep in mind, they're in Egypt, but they're not in Egypt proper. There's a reason for that. As soon as he appeared before him, Joseph falls on his father's neck. They kiss in a culturally okay way. Then Israel said to Joseph, let me die, since I have seen your face, that you're still alive. So here's the reunion you were talking about. Joseph said to his brothers and his fathers, watch this. I'll go up and tell Pharaoh, and will say to him, my brothers and my father's household, who are in the land of Canaan, have come to me. And the men are shepherds, for they've been keepers of livestock, and they brought their flocks and their herds. And occupation, you shall say, your servants have been keepers of livestock from our youth, even until now. Both we and our fathers, that you may live in the land of Goshen, for every shepherd is detestable to the Egyptians. I want you to understand that there is, when they go to Egypt, everything is all good, but there is distinction because of the prejudice not against color, skin color, it's against occupation. You understand? You understand how prejudice works? Now, why might a person not like a shepherd? Go ahead. Yeah.
On it down.
Yeah. Why would we like a shepherd?
Because the sheep feed differently than the cattle.
Right?
The sheep they eat deep, we're not farmers, so we.
Right.
But the sheep, when they graze, they go all the way to the root, pull everything up. The cattle, or as we know them, the cow and bulls and all, they eat the top grass and they leave something. So if you have sheep, they're going to clean that area. You keep looking for pasture.
So it's a lesser occupation in the minds of some. Not only that, sheep stink. Sheep stink, don't they?
Yes, they do.
And if you've been around a sheep all day, you're gonna smell sheepish, okay? Ooh. Can you imagine you coming? Oh, Lord, have mercy. If your husband was a shepherd and he came home, you asked him to take a shower because you stink.
It's water before.
You smell like sheep. So that's another thing. They're funky. And another thing about shepherds, is another thing about shepherds is they're considered lowly. I mean, basically what she said, lowly. You don't want your kid to grow up and be a shepherd. I don't want to be, no, honey, don't marry a shepherd. Whatever you do, don't marry a shepherd. They're detestable in the sight of the Egyptians for another reason. And that is, Israel wasn't just shepherds of sheep, they also dealt with cattle in many cases. And many times when you're a farmer, you kill certain types of animals. Have you ever heard the term sacred cow? We use it kind of in a metaphorical term for that's my personal belongings, but where it really comes from is there were religions that worship cows. Sacred cows, nobody would touch the cows. Well, a good farmer, if it's a good cow, we're making hamburgers, baby. Right? We're having burgers, baby. Well, an Egyptian who happens to think the cow's a sacred animal thinks a farmer is an awful person because you just killed my sacred cow. Okay? That's where the term sacred cow comes from, because literally there are people who think cows are spiritual animals, and I'm making burgers. Alright? I'm a shepherd, or I'm a farmer, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my money. That's how they make their money, by the slaughtering of animals, sometimes even the sheep. You know that? And so they get this bad reputation. So the prejudice is not based on color. It's based upon occupation. And Joseph, to show you how powerful understanding is, Joseph, even as vice pharaoh, he doesn't say, come live with me in the palace. He says, look, I grew up with y'all, but I've been here all my life. And I'm vice pharaoh, so I'm cool. But I can't bring you guys directly to live with me in the palace or around me because y'all stink. You know, in uncertain word, in uncertain terms. I got a nice place called Goshen that you're going to be in. And Goshen is a place called Avaris. We call it Avaris, but Goshen has been found. And in this place called Goshen or Avaris is where the Jews dwell. Any comments on that? Everybody understand why I went through that whole series on prejudice and prejudice? So the text says in this chapter about 3 times they live in Goshen. They live in Goshen. The reason why they live in Goshen is because they're shepherds. Not just shepherds, they're farming community. And we keep your farmers over there because we don't want to smell them and we don't want them to kill our cows.
Goshen was a better land, they had plenty of grazing land, everything they needed.
Yep,
He purposely wanted them to go to Goshen.
because of how, right, somebody said something about city. Tanya said city, girl, that's perfect. Israel would have been country. Egypt is city. And sometimes it's very difficult to merge the two together.
And remember, the Egyptians were, they were idol worship.
Yeah,
And the Israelites worship the true and living God.
and so poor Jacob, his problem is he has to, what poor Jacob has to do, Joseph has to do, he has to make this thing work. You know, it kind of reminds me, and I see your hand, Richard, ever saw Beverly Hillbillies?
Yeah.
You remember Jed Condon, and
Yes.
Jethro, and Granny, and Ellie Mae? What's her name? Ellie Mae?
Ellie
I've heard. Yeah. They were country folk that were brought into the city, and it kind of clashed with the city, right? Well, Joseph is trying to prevent a Beverly Hillbillies thing from going on. Hence, even the term, Beverly Hills is rich, Beverly Hill Billies. And Joseph is trying to prevent a clashing of, I want y'all to be okay. And I know how, see, he's really saying, I know how y'all is. So, in order for y'all to make it, because y'all are different, you're not going to get, as Reverend Kilpatrick brilliantly pointed out, all of the pagan stuff going on in the city. There's some real stuff going on in the city here. So what we going to do, is we're going to put you in this nice area where you can graze, your animals will be fine. Y'all just go over there. Richard.
So they start off with 70 and now they end up with 1 million. But God is using Joseph to make this happen.
Yeah. See, what he wants to do,
He set apart.
he set them apart.
Okay.
And what you're going to find out is, he just blessed their seed. That's the fulfillment of that promise to Abraham, promise to Isaac, promise to Jacob. I will bless you, and I will make you a great nation. It's happening. We've been reading that forever, and it's happening. Forgive my typo. Notice the family will go from 70 to millions in 400 years. We talked about the detestability of the shepherds. Isn't it, and by the way, archaeology points this out not just in Israel. Shepherds, farmers are considered lower class people. All right, I'm going to point that out to you. In biblical times. But who does the Lord Jesus use?
Shepherds.
You know the story? What are the songs we sing? About Christmas time. Who sees the star?
The shepherds.
Not the leaders in Israel, not the religious leaders in Israel. If we had done it, if we had arranged the story, the last people in the world you want to tell anybody who saw it, if you're going to give any validity to it, would be shepherds. Not shepherds, I don't want to, but the Lord, what do the shepherds say? They go back and they tell what they saw. All these songs we teach children have significance. The reason why the Lord chose shepherds, and it's in Luke's gospel, is because what he was saying is, I have no respected person. So I'm going to use shepherds to bear witness to the star of David, in which he shall, and to the ancient mind. Now, our minds, we don't have too much problem with farmers. In fact, we want to be friends with them because we want the best bacon, right? If I can find me a good farm, I want the best bacon, I want the best ground beef, I want the best pork, I want the best meat, I want the leanest and the best. But, so I want to make friends with the shepherd. But what you all say, if you were ancient people, what your mentality toward others would be, is why in the world would God choose those awful shepherd people? Remember this, there are two classes of occupations that are despised. One's almost understandable. One is the shepherding farming industry. Another is tax collectors. And we personally understand why tax collectors were despised in Scripture. And the Lord uses both of those occupations, demonstrating that I have no respect for in Luke's gospel. So when we sing the song in shepherds, somebody knows the words. Come on, where are my Christmas people at? You don't know the words, you don't remember the words, but we sing all of these songs at Christmas time. Shepherds kept watch. That would be the last thing want to tell somebody. Who saw it? The lowest of the lowest is what he might as well have said saw it. Well, who cares if they saw it? But the Lord is saying, your testimony is valid. Because to me, I don't care what occupation you have. Because I've come for everybody. That's why Luke shows us the importance of shepherding and farming, at least in the ancient world. Getting back to this outhouse. Just let me get back to it. Okay. We went to some, when we were in Whiteville, we went to some, I think it was the Tina Turner thing.
Yes, we did.
It was a Tina Turner
Yeah,
thing.
and that blues singer.
And then the blues singer, but we went and saw what an older, it was like a farmhouse and an outhouse. Again, my first experience with an outhouse. It was quite the, it wasn't obviously in use, but it was showing you what life was like in the past. It's a really nice setup there in Whiteville. And it was something that I guess I'll never forget. And as you tell children, as you have grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and you tell them, they used to boil bath water, and we'd all have to take baths in the same bath. What they're going to say to you is, oh, Papa, that's nasty.
Yeah.
And we understand, because we understand history, well, that's nasty today. It certainly was survival in America then. You ever seen pictures after the Depression? You pointed out the Depression of how dirty people were. You ever notice you look in the 1940s and you see the white people in the pictures, they're dirty because they don't take baths every day. The idea of a bath every day is it's a modern concept. It has not always been in the past. You know, if I could write the story, everybody would take baths every single day with a nice shower and etc., but that's not how life was. As Mr. Chris pointed out, you're out there in the jungle at 100-degree weather. Everybody's got a heavy gun, but the brothers, they get together because everybody smells the same, and we're all out here doing this.
But even Pastor, look at the transition in the 21st century from 70s, 80s, baby, from bathtubs to showers. Look at that transition. It was quick, bathtubs were what was useful then because that's all we had. Where now, many people don't take baths, they take showers. Everybody takes showers now.
What? So they take a bath and they get this. I'm so glad that I was born. That just sounds absolutely crazy to me. That sounds like it takes too much time. That's just absolutely.
They get in the shower because they think now, the generation now, they think of a bath as you sitting in your own germs.
Pretty much.
So then when they sit in the bath, so they're not washing, and then they actually get in the shower.
To rinse off.
That's what the doctors are telling you, though.
Really?
Yes.
See, go ahead.
When we get to Moses, after they go in and come out of Egypt, that's when they go before the Lord. That's what he's going to tell Moses to tell the people. Tell them to take a bath.
Yeah. Moses said, the Lord said, hey, take a bath.
Wash their clothes.
Yeah.
Because, we always say cleanliness is
It's
next
the
to
God, that's where that comes from.
Yeah. And so you'll see that based upon the time period that everybody lived in,
Mm-hmm.
when they come to bathing, changing clothes every day and all of that, that's more of a modern.
And can you imagine going out into the desert with 2 million? Now again, Mr. Christmas pointed out, you get used to the smell, but can you imagine somebody that joined their company? And this big nation out here in the desert, every one of them stunk. I'm kidding. But what I mean, once you get used to it, this is just the smell of everybody. This is just the way everyone. Maybe I would have gotten used to Indian food. Okay, maybe I think it would have killed me. But I say that to you all just to give you an understanding of the cultural context. I want you to take the 47th chapter on next week. Reverend Kilpatrick. Genesis 47. But I spent some time on that to get you to understand. Israel's in Goshen. And they're in Goshen because they're somewhat, would you call it segregated? They're not segregated because they can move about, but they are in their areas. Now, let me ask you this, growing up in Chicago, you had areas which were black, and there areas which were Polish, and areas which were white, and areas which were Asian, and in addition, from what I understand, which was quite unique, you all had a white family that lived over here.
It's all according to when you lived here. When my great-grandparents came here, in the 20s, it was all integrated, you know.
The 20s, okay.
Yeah.
East Chicago. East Chicago.
New Edition.
New Edition.
And in the 40s, again, after World War II, that's when the housing segregation began. America began to segregate.
And World War II, but you had like a white family.
Yeah, that was just, well, we had many. That was just one. It was a family that grew up right over here, where one of the vacant lots they had on Melville. But during those years, it was, you know, it was.
How did they treat you?
Oh, they were nice people.
You see, when everybody's living together, the relationships that were all on the same level. Now, when you went to Columbus School, I imagine, everybody who went to Columbus School, raise your hand. By the time Lynetta came around, it was gone, I bet. But, now, did you all go to school with white kids?
Roosevelt, yeah.
Mostly Hispanic, black and Hispanic.
It was black and, okay, very much like it is now.
Like, I was 85% black,
Right.
maybe 18% Hispanic.
And a few white kids sprinkled in between.
Roosevelt was integrated. We went to, everybody went to Roosevelt from the 50s on up until maybe the 70s. It was half and half, a third, what happened?
Third, Mr.
But in the late 50s and 60s, East Chicago itself was the most diverse city in America.
Yep.
We had at least 6 to 8 different cultures just lived in Chicago.
And because still,
Exactly.
because everybody's coming.
Exactly.
Everybody's coming here.
Everybody came here, that's where the money was.
That's where the money is. You go to, because of the steel, so you got a bunch of Polish people. Okay?
You said the 50s and 60s?
You got a bunch of Polish people that are coming. Adam Blatchford, many of you know when I say Adam, I'm talking about. It's a white guy that you'll see come around me. I went to college with him. He'd say to me all the time, I'm from East Chicago, Indiana, a place called Marchtown, is what he would tell me. I thought he was talking about the east side of Chicago. You know what I'm talking about, 103rd? I thought he was talking about 103rd. What he was talking. And then when he would say Marchtown, being that he has that Polish accent, I didn't understand what he meant. Marchtown? What is Marchtown? I don't know. I know what Marchtown is now. I know what it is now. It's off of Indianapolis.
Huh?
Marchtown is off Indianapolis, am I right?
No. I didn't get to you.
Yeah.
Oh, we go down Dickey Road.
Well, if you go down Dickey Road, if I understand, you'll hit that train. I can hit it from Indianapolis. That's what Reverend does. Ain't no train on there.
Pastor Kid ain't been here long enough. He don't know what.
Go ahead, sweetheart.
And don't forget, too, we had at least 52,000 people.
Yep, in the city, and they were all multicultural. Let me say this, and I'm gonna let you get right in. When you think about that, here, there was, like you said, a whole, I've read about that, that's why I know it. I didn't live there, I wouldn't have thought of it in 1960, okay? I wouldn't have gleamed in my father's eye, as they say, in 1960. I didn't come in the world till 78. And so, by then, I was said, baby. But when he would say Marchtown, I'm trying to figure out what he's talking about. Because again, he's white, he won't say Gary. So he would say, I'm from, my family got a boat from Poland. This is the first place they came because of steel. And that's why he comes and visits me quite often, because he knows St. Catherine's Hospital.
Well, yeah. But it was just like over here, we all came up, it kind of reminded me, we were set apart, black and we were the labor. They built a whole house on Sunnyside. That was the supervisor. That was like Egypt.
Right, I know, yeah.
I mean,
That's Egypt, right. Yeah.
That's what all
All those houses, that's where the foreman, wasn't that the
Yes,
foreman?
yes.
Right in the Sunnyside and in Prairie Park, right?
That was rich.
Those houses were built, just to show you how powerful steel is, those houses were built for the head people there. Yeah, go ahead.
So the Europeans that lived in Northwest Indiana, Chicago and Northwest Indiana, were the ones running from World War I and World War II.
You're right about that.
And we have primarily the skis, you know, it's not the same white people that live in the South, altogether different culture.
Because like you said, they're coming from another place
Yeah.
in order to establish.
And they were running from poverty, they were the peasants of Europe.
Right.
It was
the Polish were the.
That's what I'm going to say, the Polish peasant in Europe and America, different sociologists.
Yeah.
Did wrote about them and how they communicated, you know. But the stories, and I've heard them from both sides, the black and the Chicago white, same stories about the wars, the Depression, going to Washington School. Washington High School was truly integrated back in the 30s. My dad then were there. But I mean, it's very interesting when you think of
Me and Tanya are from the same generation. And I'm joking about it because, see, I actually got a chance to see a picture of what it used to look like. Like when Columbus School was built and how it used to be over here and how the lawn and the houses were well taken care of and whatnot. And then you look at things now, like Calumet as well. You look at things now and it's like night and day. But the unique thing about East Chicago, as Reverend Kilpatrick keeps pointing out, is the integrative mode in a very early time in this country for integration. Go ahead.
housing segregation. You must realize the federal government was a part of that too. And it was after World War II. We've done studies on it. I worked with human rights and in going to school in Northwest Indiana. And that's when they began to segregate blacks and, you know, build new housing for whites. You mentioned Marktown. They had a covenant, which I have a copy of, whereas they say no Jews, no blacks, no Catholics,
Wow.
only the Caucasian race. Well, when open housing came in 1968, then they had to integrate. But you could be shocked to see how, you know, racism or housing segregation happened in America.
Now, my wife is stealing everything you're saying. She's doing a paper in her sociology class. That's why she keeps looking at you. You at least need to give her credit for everything you're going to take from her. And we're going to take everything the woman said and use it as your. Now, I'm saying this to you all. Being in Northwest Indiana is a blessing because of the history that nobody ever talks about behind it. Go ahead.
What I found coming from Chicago, Illinois, have lived in all the areas of Chicago. What I found interesting when I first moved here was how unintegrated areas was. I found out after I started reading and doing something, well, people, which doesn't happen a lot in Chicago, even in 2022, where out here, even where I live, people live where they can afford to live out here. If you got the money to live in that neighborhood, that's where you live. In Chicago, places like Bridgeview, we don't care how much money, we don't care about you being no executive at Chrysler. Your black behind will not live in this neighborhood. And whatever we can do to keep you out. So I found this so interesting how so many areas of East Chicago were so diverse. Because it's not like that in Chicago. There are so many areas where you simply cannot live there because of your race, your religion, or your economic standard.
They'll find a way in the big city. They'll find a way to redline you up no matter how much money. You better be somebody special. they'll find a way to redline you out. But in Chicago, if you've got the money, you can live pretty much anywhere you want to live.
But even in Illinois, again, after open housing, I think it was 1968, now they take them into court, and if you got the money.
You can fight if you got the money.
No, you don't need money, this is federal court.
For federal court, yes.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think of what suburb, it could have been Highland Park, it was one of them, Arlington Heights somewhere, where they did that, they bought the house to keep the black family out. And when Jet Magazine was going, they used to have it every week, you know, what was going on. But what happened, they filed a suit through Fair Housing, and they won it, and the people had to buy the house, you know, that was the settlement. The money that they got in it was enough for the black family to buy the house. So the prejudiced people ended up having to the Housing Association. And they're still fighting.
Prejudice. Remember that, go ahead. We'll take a minute, go ahead.
Talking about that,
Let him finish, y'all. Let him finish, D. Go ahead.
remember that movie, I know a lot of people probably seen that movie called Raising in the Sun with Sidney Poitier?
Yeah.
And when I was a kid watching that movie, I was proud of them moving to that neighborhood and get that house and stuff. But the way the white folks treat them, as I was growing up, that kind of made me kind of dislike some white folks, you know, the way they treat them. And my thing is, like I say, sometimes if you got the money to live in the neighborhood, you should be able to live there.
You should be able to live wherever your money can take you. Should.
That's not always the case.
That's not, I'm returning, that's not always, you should be able to live wherever your money can take you.
You have records of what your neighbor.
I didn't hear. You said the government is set up accordingly?
Yeah, ain't no discrimination, but we know it is.
Yeah. Oh, they can play that.
No, that's all I'm saying.
They can play that. Like I tell you, if I'm going to let me retire, if I live to retire, Lord, let me have a nice house in Crown Point, and I'll be just fine.
They don't want you out. They don't want you out there.
Right.
Why would you want to live in Crown Point? I'm
Because
trying to.
the fair's out there. That's why I want to live.
Damn.
The fair is out there one time a year, Pastor Kids. Okay. That
Make sure you invite me during the day.
Okay. That is not at
Now, she want to live in Crown Point
What you
too.
say about living in Crown Park?
I said dying, actually.
You said that.
That's
They don't want you out there.
Yeah.
not out there.
Go ahead. Let
I
her.
also worked in environmental, like the EPA, and you have radon gas in Crown Point.
See.
And Dyer, that's the floodplain, that's all of that area, that's where years ago, the industry, before EPA came and before they started building up, that's where they used to dump their hazardous stuff out there.
See, I didn't know that, but I tell you what.
But, I mean, again, you had research. And all of that, when they were testing for radon gas, because I said, well, how come we're not testing it here in Chicago? I said, because it's out there in Crown Point and out in that area. And that's that natural gas that come up through your house.
Right.
And you could call it cancer, different things.
Well, we might want to live somewhere else.
Because I helped on with the voting. I was helping with the voting, and I tell you, the people that were working with me, because I went out to a Dyer church, was in a church, and they were just asking me questions like I was like, oh my gosh, are you serious? Well, you don't have this, and you don't have this out there. And you don't, this is, If
you go to a place, let's stand up, but if you go to a place like, with Caucasians in Indiana, and they ask you about East Chicago, oh, you're next to Gary. That's what they'll say. You're next to Gary. That's what they'll say.
They said about losing Gary, yes. I hear people talk about that all the time.
They settled in Gary, but presently, the first thing they'll say is, next to Gary?
Oh, you didn't bring your lunch? I got you. I can afford my
I can
own
afford to
lunch.
buy my own lunch.
Don't trim me.
You get that from people in places like Lowell,
It's nothing in old.
yeah,
Absolutely.
from people, but the white people, the poor, you live next to Gary, go ahead, Richard.
This was in Dyer.
About 25 years ago, there were 3 brothers and 1 white guy. So we went to organize and die. So we couldn't find them whole. So you know how we just kind of communicate. Soon we found them whole, they told us to go home.
Absolutely. You know why that was, don't you? Yeah, you
He
know
said
what it was? They want to know what they probably think you came to steal something. That's probably what they thought. You was out there in Dyer.
I've never been to die again.
They want to know, what are you doing here? I don't care. if you're
They
poor.
sure do.
They want to know why you're here and who you plan to rob. But let's ask the Lord to bless you. And let's ask the Lord to help us with our prejudice. Some of you are prejudiced against your own people.
That lady just asked.
You don't want to live next to nobody black. You don't want to go nowhere where a whole bunch of black people are. Preach, Reverend. Y'all ain't saying that. You don't want to live. And we say, ask the Lord, hold him. And here you are, as black as can be. I don't want to go with all of them. Let's ask God. God, I thank you for every family represented. Thank you for a good conversation as we try to discuss Israel, your people, distinction from Goshen from the rest of Egypt. We ask you to bless us and help us with our bad understanding. In Jesus' name, amen.